You'd just be going along, and the Viet Cong or the North Vietnamese Army forces would put a machine gun in somebody's home, in one of the huts there, and they'd open up on you. Other times, you'd end up taking on a company-sized strength or larger, because they'd be sitting there waiting for you. A lot of times, they called the shots. They picked the time when to fight.
The Communist command had long considered the Southern Delta their own private reserve. They would not give it up without a fight. The enemy had years to lay out his defense and was well prepared. Viet Cong sappers planted mines at likely landing places. Bridges throughout the region were targeted and destroyed. Bunkers and machine gun nests located just above the high water line waited for the swift boat's approach. Ambushes along the rivers were frequent. Contact was heavy. And costly. But despite the cost in men and boats, within months, the Sea Lord's operation began paying off. With the barrier patrols in place, massive multi-boat raids were mounted into the heart of the enemy's strongholds. Supported by Navy Seawolf gunships and Black Pony attack planes, swift boats and brave sailors sought out the Viet Cong where he lived, clearing the riverbanks of anything that offered him aid and comfort. Navy SEALs went ashore to gather intelligence and sow fear into the VC hearts. As the pressure continued, the flow of supplies reaching the enemy slowed. From a flood to a trickle, and finally began drying up. With communist domination finally lifted, civilians began returning to the Southern Delta, areas that had been for years devoid of commerce, thanks to the extortion of Viet Cong tax collectors, once again became centers of agriculture and regional industry. By late 1969, the Mekong Delta had been nearly cleared of Viet Cong, and Sea Lords had become an unqualified success.
It worked extremely well. The Viet Cong intelligence that we intercepted was that it was really hampering their operation, and General Abrams felt that it really accelerated the pacification of the Delta because the Viet Cong were just not able to move around.
But political winds blowing from the United States foretold an end to the American combat role in Vietnam. By the end of 1970, most of the swift boats, WPBs, and other Sea Lords craft were turned over as the South Vietnamese Navy took up the fight. Throughout 1971, the turnover continued. By the spring of 1972, only 2,000 U.S. sailors remained in country. With the signing of the Paris Peace Accords in January 1973, the last American combat troops left South Vietnam. Of the original market time and Sea Lords vessels, 2 radar picket destroyer escorts, 7 high-endurance cutters, 26 WPBs, and a total of 107 swift boats were left behind.